Hello, welcome to the THC show. I'm Neil Magnuson, I'm your host. This is the show where we talk about truth, hope, and change, those three very important things in our world, especially in our world these days. On the show today, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca join us for the 420 session. Jerry Martin will be here to update us on his situation with his pursuit for medical dispensaries and access through the courts. And we'll, of course, be going back out to visit the Healing Wave RV, the reefer van, the Scooby-Dooby van, the marijuana van. It's got a lot of names now. It's become fairly famous out in the neighborhood there. We're entering our 13th week of being relegated to the street in an RV to provide an option of cannabis to people here on the downtown east side to help them get off of opioids. It's quite the story, and we'll update you a little bit later on. Meanwhile, in the world today, I see that big tobacco is pulling out of the cannabis industry, and I'm sure that's an interesting sign about what might be to come for that industry. They've had a lot of different problems. Apparently there's 1 billion grams of unused and unusable, unsold cannabis that are just sitting in warehouses across Canada, and that's got to be a big hit for the licensed producers and all of the shareholders who are the ones footing the bill for all of these losses that they're taking. There's melting vape pens, there's moldy weed, there's just a ton of problems going on with legal cannabis, and we still haven't got the government to budge on regulations yet. We're going to see what they come out with after some public consultations that happened just recently, and we'll see what kind of new regulations they come up with, if it's going to allow for easier access to cannabis and less stunning profits if they ever got their act together for those that are involved in selling cannabis to us. The government has brought legalization to cannabis, at least that's what they're calling it. It's certainly not what we're calling it. Legalization would mean that probably most of the several hundred vendors that show up at 420 every year, except for COVID years in Vancouver here, would not still be criminals and would be somehow included into a legal marketplace, and that certainly has not happened. There's still a ton of enforcement going on out there and a lot of wasted tax dollars continuing to ruin people's lives. One of our suppliers at the Cannabis Substitution Program, the Mad Hatter, had their premises raided brutally by the Delta police, left them without electricity when they had fish in a tank that all died, seized their vehicle, which they still didn't have back a week ago, a cell phone that was definitely of importance that they did, and on it goes. And a shout out to them, by the way. They gave us a really nice donation here just the other day as well. So Mad Hatter Edibles, all the best with your pursuit through the courts coming up, and thank you so much for your support of us, and we'll do everything we can to help you. I'd also like to shout out to Marie. We got it, Marie. Wonderful woman that sends donations to the CSP on a regular basis. Also a shout out to Mary, our head baker. She's going to be going back east coming up at the end of February. We're certainly going to miss her. It's going to be difficult for us to replace all the baked goods that she provides for us, which are amazing. She just bakes every day for us, and so it's going to be difficult for us to replace that. We will be looking for some new bakers coming up to help us with the CSP as a result. Cannabis is an amazing compound for sure. It's one of the safest compounds found in nature, which is why there's no need for all the ridiculous regulations that are put on it by our government's so-called legalization. In fact, with all the regulations and restrictions that they've put on to accessing cannabis, they're continuing the stigmatization of the cannabis users. They're continuing the reefer madness, and still trying to scare people about a commodity that not only is the safest therapeutically active compound known to man, found in nature, but has such extreme benefits. According to Forbes magazine, CBD is being used to reset brain chemistry and to normalize brain function. BNN Bloomberg also reports similar things, and there's something about that. It's CBD, to reset the brain, is about counteracting psychosis, is what they're saying it's being used for. And I got to point out, that's a long way from where we were when I first started being a cannabis activist. And one of the big things that the prohibitionists said they had against cannabis was the causing of psychosis. And here we are finding out that cannabis can be used to reset the brain and normalize brain function and counteract psychosis. I mean, we really need to think about that for a few minutes, along with all the other benefits of cannabis. I mean, it helps people sleep, and it helps with your appetite if you're going through cancer treatments. It helps with your nausea. It helps with pain, and on it goes. This is a medical healing herb that has been with us for millennia, been used by human beings for many thousands of years for a huge variety of things. The U.S. government, in trying to prove that it didn't have medical value, because that's been their stance for all this time, that there's no medical value to cannabis, it's a Schedule I narcotic in the United States. I mean, they tried to prove that it had no medical value and found out that instead we have receptors, the CB1 and the CB2 receptors in our body that are specifically designed to accept the chemistry of cannabinoids. And the reason for that, it turns out, is because our body creates cannabinoids. Even if you're not ingesting cannabis in all of its different forms, your body will take the food that you eat, the essential fatty acids, and turn those things into internal cannabinoids, endocannabinoids, that are used by the body as a system that overrides, and maintains homeostasis over all of the other systems in not just the human body, but all the vertebrates that share the endocannabinoid system. So this is one of the most beneficial herbs to mankind that is out there. It is one of the safest, and yet here we are still debating whether or not we should be able to give out high-dose cannabis edibles to offset the opioid crisis, whether or not people should be able to grow it and trade amongst their friends or sell to people. It's being treated as if it's a commodity that is so dangerous to our society that the government has to step in and put in all these regulations and make sure that you can only buy it if you're over 18 or 19 years of age, that you can only get it through government stores. The government stores have these ridiculous warnings on there. They've got a stop sign with a pot leaf on it. And what they're really missing, and we're going to include that and show it to you coming up on the shows here, is there should be the name fentanyl on the stop sign, and the pot leaf should be there to indicate that it's helping to stop the fentanyl overdoses, because that's certainly what we're doing with it, and what a lot of people are doing with it. And so that's very obnoxious of them, and very wrong of them to put that pot leaf on a stop sign, thinking that you need to stop and think because there's THC in there, as if that's dangerous in some way, because it's never proven itself to be dangerous in our society at all. You can't smoke too much cannabis to ever do anything unless you're using concentrates, in which case you might be able to green out, but that's not anything to be too worried about either, unless you bang your head on the cement. So you should probably be sitting on a couch if you're smoking fat dabs of good concentrate. But the edible side of cannabis, you can eat too much. You can be very uncomfortable and very unhappy with having eaten too much. You could be comatose for a few days there. But there again, there's no serious health implications with doing that or with eating too much cannabis. There's no real reason for anybody to be afraid of THC or afraid of cannabis at all. Yet here we are with a government that is still perpetrating reefer madness lies, and they're doing it now to prop up their own cannabis stores and their own cannabis sales, to give them justification for making sure that nobody else grows cannabis on a commercial scale or produces it or distributes it other than them. And there's no need for that whatsoever. Just like if you had a bunch of apples growing in your backyard, you should be able to put out a stand and sell apples or whatever it is that you want to sell. There's just no role for government to play in the cannabis industry, any more than there is for the government to play a role in the coffee industry or the fruit industry or the herbal medicine industry, especially with cannabis, as it is, like I say, one of the safest compounds known to man, found in nature. And you can go back and check that. That's a statement made by a DEA judge in the United States when he was asked to rule on the harmfulness of cannabis. Judge Francis Young, 1989. You can Google that and see his comments, and he's the one who states that cannabis is one of the safest therapeutically active compounds known to man. And in my opinion, it should be regulated accordingly for sure. So part of what this is about is what the role of government is meant to be in what is considered to be a free country. We are supposed to have freedom here in our actions, and what freedom means is that you should have the right to do or not do whatever it is you want to do or don't want to do, as long as you're not harmfully interfering with somebody else. You can do things that are potentially dangerous to yourself. You can learn how to ski, you can drive cars, you can jump out of airplanes, hopefully with a parachute. But you're allowed to do all these things. In fact, I saw one extreme artist having a Hummer drive over his chest, and this was something they put on TV as here's a thing you can do if you want. I mean, you can go boxing, you can do martial arts, you can get into rings and punch each other unconscious. I mean, there's just really no end to the things that you can do that are dangerous. But the government has a role to play in some of that. I mean, and even in some of the commodities that are traded back and forth and sold in the marketplace, some of those things have inherent dangers associated with them. And some of those things can really be harmful if not used properly. And the government does have a role to play with those things in the form of regulations. And regulations come in many different forms. But primarily, the number one regulation that's usually needed, and usually all that's needed, is simple verbal warnings or a written warning on the packaging or something like that. That's all we need. I mean, they sell commercial tobacco everywhere. Gas stations, grocery stores, everywhere you can buy this commercial tobacco product. And yet that's killing 4 or 5 million people worldwide every 12 months. And not to mention all the people that are suffering debilitating diseases, respiratory diseases as a result of smoking cigarettes. And yet that's a commodity that's available. It has warnings on the packages. There's places and ways that it's not allowed to be advertised. There's age restrictions on purchase. I don't think there's any restrictions on what kind of poisons they can put into the tobacco product and mix with it for people to smoke, which is absolutely ludicrous, but there should be. But there is a role to play for government in these things, but the regulations need to be reasonable. And the reason for that is because whenever you're putting on restrictions and regulations by a group of public servants onto free people, you need to be very cognizant of the rights and the human rights that these people have, because you're trampling on their rights if you take the ability for them to access things away from them. And certainly that's not a thing that works either. I mean, if you absolutely restrict and prohibit people's access to things, what you get is a real serious demand for those things, as many people just will not trust government, don't trust government, and mostly they just don't want to be told they can't do something. Like if you were told you couldn't go and inhale the vapors from this burning herb, by some government official, maybe you would obey, maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you'd wait till he went away. Maybe you'd never try it because you believed him. But probably, and the truth for many people, many young people, many people who are just born with a rebellious gene, they gotta go and try it. They gotta do that. If you put a bucket of crack cocaine in the middle of the sidewalk and put up a sign and said, here you go folks, help yourself, and you put the dynamics of what that product is all about. You can overdose on this. You can become addicted to this. It can become problematic in your life. It can cause other problems for you. If you put that there, most of the people are going to walk around it and not take it and not be interested in it. But if you put a sign up and say, hey, this is dangerous, but you can't have it because we're saying you can't have it, well, now you've got a huge amount of people, a large percentage of people that are going to go and sneak some and take some and use some despite they're not being allowed to do that. I mean, this is just human nature. So public servants are really messing with human nature when they try to prohibit things. And if they're prohibiting dangerous things, well, then that's going to cause a lot of problems. Because when things are dangerous, they require regulations. That's where the role of government comes in. Regulations are supposed to be there to protect people, to warn people, to allow people to make good, conscious, educated, and informed choices for themselves. But when there's just a simple ban, then, like I say, it's going to increase the demand. People are going to find it. There's going to be an unregulated marketplace that will spring up as a result of that. Regulations need to be not prohibitions. They need to be regulations that make sense. They need to be regulations that actually address the harmful potential of the things that are being sold. And whenever those regulations get to a point where it makes more sense for people to go and purchase it from an unregulated marketplace, well, now you've got a problem. You especially have a problem if those products and compounds and commodities are dangerous. If they're dangerous, now they're going to be sold in an unregulated marketplace which won't have any of the protective regulations on there, sold by people simply interested in profit, not educated or even concerned about your well-being. And that's the last place where you want to have dangerous things available. So in this case, we have like the prohibition of opioids going on, and so what's happening in our neighborhood is there's just a ton of people out here that have gotten themselves involved in opioids, and they're buying them from street dealers that are laced and cut with a whole bunch of dangerous things as well. And it's just a huge problem. It's just a huge problem. People need to be able to get what they demand. They need to be able to have a safe supply. They need to have a government that cares about them and puts on regulations that are reasonable and meaningful, that will actually keep people safe and not allow for an unregulated marketplace to evolve where dangerous commodities are made available to people from sources that are unknown in ways that are unsafe. And so much more of that goes on. And I mean, to prohibit cannabis is just as ludicrous as can be. It caused us so much trouble. There's so many young people that have had criminal records as a result of the prohibition of cannabis. There's so many families that have been torn apart because of the lies that have been told about cannabis, and they're concerned for their young people, and on it goes. The amount of tax dollars being wasted on this is just obscene. Calling people criminals for having possession of something that they think is going to help make them feel better is a complete abomination of what the criminal law is supposed to be all about. There we are. 4:19 warning. You got one more minute. I got one more minute. You roll them. I'll try to wrap it up. So, a crime is intentionally causing harm to other people. It's when there's significant damage that's been done, and when you knew that you were going to do that damage. To be a crime, it takes two very, very serious criteria. You have to have mens rea and actus rea. Mens rea is where you understand in your mind that your actions are going to cause damage and harm. And actus rea is when you actually go about doing that. And with prohibiting cannabis and making cannabis a criminal offense, there is no intended harm that is being perpetrated on people by cannabis consumers. They do not believe they are harming anybody, and they are not. They are not intentionally doing any action to harm anybody. There is no victim in the courtroom like that there's supposed to be according to common law. You're supposed to be able to face your accuser. There's no accuser except the government that accuses you of breaking law. It's 420. So there you go. There's my rant for the day. It's 420, and we always celebrate our culture by having a session, and I always do that with Glenn Wells, who's good enough to come and join us every week. 8 out of 10, Glenn. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay.
Neil's not smoking
I'm
today.
not smoking weed today, Glenn.
So he did have to blow smoke in his face.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not feeling so well.
I'm a lightweight, and I guess I'm a little bit close to my emotions these days.
Yeah.
I don't deal with stress.
Right?
Yeah, Ron, a board member from Van Du, I can't pronounce his name properly, so I'm not going to try.
Right.
But, I love that man. He was a very, very good guy. He helped us a lot with the Cannabis Substitution Program. He was a regular with us. He spoke up on our behalf during board meetings. And just a real funny guy that, he had a spirit to him that everybody could appreciate and enjoy. And Ron passed away, thankfully not from an overdose. So we've lost some friends of ours in this neighborhood, people that we knew from overdose, and it really breaks our heart, especially when we have a safe option for people that we're hoping that they'll take advantage of. But Ron did have some serious neurological problems. He was on some very heavy medications, and we don't know yet exactly what the cause of death was, but it wasn't overdose. So anyway, I'm a little concerned, I'm upset about that.
Yes.
And, I think that affects me like that.
He's in a better place.
And I think sometimes what I do when I'm affected by things like that is I smoke too much weed. And for me anyway, I know there are people who can't smoke enough. But for me, I can smoke too much, and if I smoke late at night, I shouldn't even be up late at night. I'm an old man now, so I should go to bed early. But when I'm up late...
Who's that?
Me.
Who's that?
Me. My
That's
body.
a stereotype,
No,
buddy. That's a stereotype. Us old people can stay up just as long as the young people.
I'm sure there are, but, I'm blaming it on my old age and how my body and brain are reacting. And if I'm up late... I don't drink coffee, so I don't have that going on. But so I was up a little bit late, and I was upset about Ron dying like that. It's always sad when you lose somebody. I mean, I know he had some serious health issues, but I saw him just a few days before, and I didn't think he looked like somebody who was going to be gone any day soon. So I was pretty upset about that, and so I'm smoking weed to compensate for how I feel. And then if I smoke too much weed and I stay up too late, then I can't take part in my own 420 session on my own show. So I hope everybody out there has one for me. Have a dab, have a puff for me.
There, there's puff for
Glenn's
you.
been told he has to puff double puffs, you know, to
Here.
make up for it. And
There you
now,
go.
and they decided
Just
they'd
pull
blow
the
smoke in my
that way.
face. So
And Neil's gonna help me too.
they're all helping. We got a studio full
Thank
of
you,
people
Dee,
here
for the
that are
compliment on
helping.
the shirt. I got the shirt from our friend in Ontario,
Right.
John.
Right?
Right. So
Well,
he
you
sent
gave me one like that.
But
Is that
yeah,
the
but
same
no,
one?
John sent me one.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I can't say his Facebook name.
That's all right.
But we know who he is.
Yes,
right?
I
Yeah,
know.
so, yeah, that's your name too. Yeah, but you didn't
Lots
send
of
me the
people
shirt.
named
Yes.
John.
I'm making some of those.
Huh?
I'm making
You're going to make some of these? Well, there you
John
go.
Murray's in studio here.
Yeah.
John Murray's one of
Right,
these
John.
amazing people that helps
Because
us
you
the
can
Cannabis
smoke with us.
Substitution
There you go.
Project.
Yeah, over
You
here.
want to bring up the
Here,
stool?
over here.
I got a
Over
stool
here.
for you.
Over on that side.
I was just wanting to go outside.
Oh,
Going outside.
Come join
You
us.
didn't bring any of those posters with you, did you?
I have cannabis-infused hot dogs today.
I see. Very
corn,
nice.
Aren't they corn dogs?
John comes every Sunday, but due to football, due to snow,
Yeah.
he
Yes.
wasn't able to come on Sunday.
snowed out.
So he's here today looking after that.
It's all good.
There he
It's
is.
all
There
good,
you go.
Yay.
Sunday, Tuesday, it doesn't make much difference. There's always a need out there. And
He's
John's been
feeding the
helping us.
poor, right?
How long now, John? 3+ years?
3+ years, yeah.
And
Plus years.
John's helped me with getting my tattoo. He gave me a printout of
see.
the kazoo smoking a joint. So
I hand drew it.
you hand do that? Nice, thanks. Yes.
But you didn't
So
bring any of
I-
my posters of the cannabis logo there with the stop
week.
fentanyl.
Next week.
Yeah.
There you
We'll
go.
have that for you next week. We're going to be putting those on all of our products here at the store. Cannabis stops fentanyl, and that's what they should be putting on those packages, and that's what
And
we're
what was
putting
that
on
that I
ours.
shared with you that fentanyl overdoses are down 20%?
14%.
14%, right?
14%
And
on,
that's
on
probably
the
because of you.
on the downtown east side.
Yes, where
Well,
we are right now. Come on, you got to say some of that's because of you.
Sure.
You're
Of course
hearing-
it has
you're,
to be,
You're
because-
hearing about it. People come tell you that you saved their life.
We know many people that
Right.
aren't using the other doses of things that are out there that could kill them. So absolutely, we are making a difference. But I mean, the statistics are the reflection of a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
For one thing, there's a lot of people in this neighborhood who have taken their training and are carrying the naloxone kits. So that when people do
That
go
would
down,
help, yes,
you know,
yes,
they're
yes.
revived right away.
Yes, yes.
The number of actual overdoses are not down. The number of fatalities are down.
Down. Okay.
So, but yeah, we do take some credit for what we're doing here. We know we're doing a lot of good things. There it is there. So look for that coming near you. When you see it on the government products, that's what they're trying to say. They just missed the fentanyl part. You know, government doesn't get everything right the first time. They certainly didn't get cannabis legalization right the first time.
No.
And that logo should be to say that cannabis prevents fentanyl overdose, and that's how we're going to treat it, because that is what happens.
Yeah.
Cannabis is a very effective tool for
It's helped me
preventing those things.
19 years free of crack because of cannabis.
Exactly.
Right? Helps my PTSD, my scoliosis.
And it was there for you when you were going to go through some sort of physical withdrawal from crack, right?
Yep.
And that's one of the things that we've really learned is the key here. That
That's
gonna
it
be
right there.
cool.
So this is what I'm going to get on my arm. And I actually, it's an interesting story because my friend was there getting a tattoo and he said, Glenn, you should have a tattoo. And he said, what should it be of? And I said, well, I would get the Great Kazoo. And he looked at it, he said, that's about 2 hours work. He says, that's about $365. He says, I'll tell you what, if you, I'll charge you $200 as long as you show it on the show. I said, sure, I can do that, it's no problem. Right. So his mom calls, and it's her birthday, and it's a video call. So we started singing happy birthday to her.
Nice. Who taught you to do that?
She cried. She cried.
Nice.
And she said it was the most wonderful thing that she had that day.
Nice.
So then Chad turned around to me and said, Glenn, that tattoo's now free.
Wow.
Because it made his mom happy and
Wow.
crying and smiling and on her birthday,
Beautiful.
right? I didn't even expect that, but he just said, because you did that, he said that tattoo's now free. So I
Very
get a
nice.
free tattoo. My very first tattoo. I'm 56. Never had a tattoo. I'm going to be a virgin, I guess. and break my virginity.
I've never had a tattoo.
Never? No?
No, I have no tattoos, but I said many, many years ago that if they ever actually properly legalize cannabis, that I
Yeah.
will get a pot leaf or something
There
on
you
my
go.
forearm.
There you go.
And I still intend to do that. I still think we're going to do that. I think that we're close.
Yeah. And,
We're close.
and my theory about getting a tattoo at 56 is that the color is going to last longer. Because if I got it at 20, it would be all dull right now.
Right.
So I'm going to die with some nice
Yeah,
color
my
on
skin
my
is
body.
already getting a little loose.
Yeah, I
so-
know. Yeah.
Going up to
Thank you very much for
We're
the
going out
corn
to feed
dogs.
the masses.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks, John. I'll take one of those.
Go
too.
and feed the masses. Don't drop it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's great, eh?
That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah, and just to sing happy birthday, and then Chad just, gives you that free
Kindness is a wonderful thing.
So
And
March 29th is
we should all be
Monday.
rewarding
March
kindness.
30th, I'll be on the show. We'll be showing the tattoo. It'll be a little red. But
That'd be
yeah,
fun.
yeah,
I like that a lot.
it's nice.
So
Yeah,
that's good, yeah.
yeah.
And I say we're getting close. I mean, the government regulations so far are not close at all. We've been struggling hard to get Health Canada to
If you get your exemption,
exempt
that's
us.
even closer.
Well, that's what I'm talking
Yes,
about.
yeah.
We've applied for licenses for our Healing Wave Dispensary, our low barrier access dispensary. We think that that's what's required to meet the needs of the community. But before we get a license, what we want is an exemption.
Yep.
We just need a ministerial exemption from Canada's Health Minister, Patty Haydu, to allow us to move back into our store. This used to be the store that we occupied here, and to serve people in the way that we can from the store, which is way better than what we're able to do from the RV. We'll go visit the RV in a little while and see what we're doing out there. But we really want to get back in here. We're in a bit of a perilous situation out there in the RV. We're not sure if the Vancouver Police Department has backed off and they're in a holding pattern waiting for Health Canada's decision, or if they've decided to undertake an investigation, an undercover investigation into what we're doing so that they can come and get evidence against us and arrest us. We really don't know. But it's a lot of stress to be under for sure for myself and the volunteers and the staff that help us with what we're doing. And so we want to get back in the store. We need that ministerial exemption. They have said that if they grant it to us, they recognize that there's others that are going to want the same thing. And, you know, Health Canada, that's not a bad thing. That is a very good thing. You can be helping people help people. You can be helping keep people alive and get them off of opioids and street drugs by having community-based cannabis shops with low barrier access. So that's what we're hoping for. They said they might have it in place for us in early January. I guess I should have asked them what January they were referring to.
Well,
but I'm pretty sure they meant this January. And that obviously has come and gone. We're getting towards the end of January
Sunday's
now.
the last day, yeah.
We've not heard anything from them yet. We've been sending them our fantastic lawyer, John Conroy, who's done so much amazing work on our behalf here. He's been sending them submissions every few days because there's more and more studies coming out every few days about how cannabis works to get people off of opioids. So, that's going on. And once we get that, I think my work is done. I think that I really do. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go away because I'm sure there's a lot that I'll need to speak to with respect to how our program's been helping people and help other places institute the same thing.
Show other
Don't
places
tell
how to
me
do it.
my work is just beginning, Glenn. I'm getting tired now. It's been a long run. It's very depressing when you have to fight government for what is reasonable.
Which is real, which is which is what we need to keep ourselves healthier.
Yeah.
And then earlier you said about the opioids, how people get on opioids. It's our doctors who put us on those opioids.
Not always, but
not always.
In a lot of cases that's true.
Yes.
People
I
get
would
prescribed
say about
opioids.
75% of the time it's the doctors, and then we
I
want
think
the
that might be
opioids
true.
out to the
Hard to
pain
know
is
what
gone.
the stats are,
Yeah.
but I think you might be accurate in that. That it is a larger percentage of people that end up struggling with opioid addiction because they were actually prescribed opioids for something traumatic that happened. From a doctor.
Yeah.
And then, couldn't get off the way the doctor wanted them to get off, so they end up going and borrowing from their family and friends.
Cannabis was legal all these
then
years.
they end
we
up
probably have
stealing
better
out of
pain
medicine
pills
cabinets, and then they end up, trying to find it on the streets, and they can cycle downwards from there.
And if cannabis was legal all these years, we would have found better ways to deal with
Absolutely.
pain rather than opioids, right?
If doctors could have been trained on cannabinoid therapeutics, they'd be much less likely to be prescribing opioids.
We wouldn't be having the deaths that we probably have right now.
Not at all.
Right?
This whole opioid crisis is all driven by prohibition.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it at all. If people could get what they needed for themselves in reasonable ways, and cannabis was an option, then there would be so much less of the opioid addiction going on out there.
Yes, it would be.
And so, that's what we're fighting for. And the fact that the governments have not allowed easy access to cannabis and have maintained prohibition policies has absolutely killed so many
made
people.
it easier to get opioids by giving the psychiatric nurses powers to write those prescriptions now. So they've even made it easier for you to get the stuff that'll kill you and made it harder to get the stuff that'll save you.
And during this crisis, the pharmaceutical companies are lobbying to have their solutions implemented And their solutions are maintenance-based, about switching from one opioid to another, mainly about trying to switch people off of street opioids to pharmaceutical prescribed and dispensed opioids, because that would be a safer supply for sure, because they wouldn't be cutting it and lacing it with other things. But all of this is driven by government policy. Myself and our fellow activists for so many decades now have been fighting this. And it's been a very frustrating battle.
But we're getting there.
Well, we're getting
a lot
there.
closer than we were when we first started the very first Art Gallery 420. So we're a lot farther along, right?
Cannabis consumers are a lot farther along because they can, they can have and possess and consume cannabis without it being an issue anymore. They don't have to buy from the government stores, although they're not legally allowed to buy from anybody else. But they can produce their own. They can trade amongst friends.
We can gift them.
They can be gifted cannabis.
Yes, we can gift them.
Anyway, we're hoping that this all gets turned around fairly quickly here, and that we can then devote this part of our show, or this show, to something other than having to fight government for reasonable access to cannabis. But for now, that's what's going on, and that's what we're doing. One quick plug for CannaMatch.ca before you go.
Yeah, and come check us out. It's a meeting and aerofresh.ca.
I don't know about them, but I know about CannaMatch.ca. Aerofresh is good.
Yes,
we're not using it in the RV. We like the smell of weed.
I know that's perfect when you say that, though, because that's what it does. It gets rid of the smell of weed,
right?
And that's what
it's not a paid promotion. I don't know. He might be getting paid, but
no, I'm not getting paid. But
if we like a product, we'll talk about
product for it. Yes.
They gave us some, but like I say, I don't use it in the RV. We want it to smell like weed.
But he didn't want it.
We're sending out smoke signals from the hot boxed RV all day long there, and people are coming there. Yeah. Oh, that's where the smell's coming from. Help me.
So I added a few people to CannaMatch this week.
CannaMatch.ca is a good place to meet people.
Too. I've been seeing that beginning a lot of likes on my CannaMatch page on Facebook also. So
good.
Yeah.
It's just a resource. It's a way to meet other people that are cannabis friendly. And if you want to meet other people, that's great. If you want to be cannabis friendly, well, that's even better for CannaMatch.ca.
It was even like for traveling, but we're not traveling right now. But still, if you want to meet somebody that's in your area,
that's right.
Smoke
that's
with,
a great resource to be able to do that.
To be able to do that, right? Yeah. So you don't have to just meet the wrong person or something like that, right?
All right. Well, good luck with that and everything else, man. And we'll see you back here next week.
Okay. Take care.
Very good. That brings us to the next segment of our show, which is called the Martin Medical Moment, and it's named as such because it's the segment of the show where we follow the trials and, well, hopefully trials someday, and tribulations of Jerry Martin. Jerry Martin is a dispensary owner in Whitewood, Saskatchewan, that wanted to give back to his community. About 8 years ago, he opened a dispensary there. Over the course of a 4-year run, he had about 1,000 members. He was using strict protocols on how to handle the illegalization of it, by making sure people had a doctor's confirmation of diagnosis, and that everything was done as best he could according to the protocols that we were following here in Vancouver with the Compassion Club set out by Riel Kapler and Philippe Lucas. And so Jerry has been now 4 years on the other side of that dispensary because they raided and busted him thanks to legalization. And he had all of his belongings seized, and he's been harassed and been oppressed by these prosecutors who are still trying to put him in jail or have him pay a fine or whatever it is they're looking for. But it's all wrong, and it's one of the bigger stories in our movement that we've been following. And Jerry's been very good to come and visit us most of the weeks here and talk to us about what's going on, and he's here again today, so I'm going to bring him in. No further ado, come on in, Jerry. Good to see you, sir.
You too.
How are you doing?
It's been a week.
It's been another week.
Oh my God!
They come and go quick, don't they?
I tell you.
So what's happening this week?
I can't say.
You can't say. Maybe one of these days some of these things will come out. You're still looking at a court date coming up in April?
Yeah.
24th or 26th?
24th to 26th.
24th to 26th. You along with Pat Warnicki and some others involved in that. It's a constitutional challenge.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is that people need to be able to walk into a store and easily access cannabinoid therapeutics. And that's what you had going on there, although you were using like doctor's permission and things like that.
Yeah.
And even that's a pretty big barrier. Yeah, but it was in a non-legalized atmosphere, so that's why you had to do it that way. But ultimately people just ordinary people should be able to walk into a storefront and have a variety of cannabis therapeutics there to choose from without it being a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. Smell it, you know.
Yeah,
Free sample, maybe.
of course.
Give a lot of free samples.
Joint on your birthday and
Yeah.
all the rest of
Yeah.
it.
Free
It's
weed
not a
Wednesdays.
dangerous commodity.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any problems in the 4 years you were running your dispensary?
No
Or people,
one. No one. Actually, the fire department brought that up when the town turned down, wouldn't let them take the money.
Right.
Yeah, they said, they stood up to bat for me and said, Jerry's never had a single complaint in the 4 years he's been open. Yet we
Right.
have drunk people from the bars constantly causing problems.
And you had a crystal meth problem in the
Yeah,
Lakewood?
yeah.
Lots of problems there, and you never had a problem with what you were doing. You were just helping people.
Yeah.
That's such a sad state of
Yeah, it
affairs
is.
that happened there for sure. And the fire department, he's mentioning that because Jerry was known as, and still is known as, the King of Compassion. He earned that title, and that's because he was giving away much of the proceeds of what he was getting there to help his community and to help activism. And what did you do for what you wanted to do something with the fire department, and they had to turn you down? Is
Yeah,
that correct?
they had outdated clothing and stuff they were wearing and equipment.
Right.
So I offered them, they needed 10 grand, so I offered them the 10 grand. They were very happy to take it, but when the town found out about it, the story had already been out or coming around, so from CBC there. So they got all fearful and they denied it. So they said they would prefer to put their firemen at risk of dying instead of taking the money for new equipment from a local business that had been open 4 years.
That had been helping people profoundly.
Yeah.
So you had about 1,000 members,
Yeah.
and those members would access your store on a fairly regular basis. I mean, we're talking medical people, so
Yeah.
they're daily
The
users.
lineups every day.
Lineups every day. So
Yeah.
1,000 people, and probably every one of them on average would have visited you over those 4 years, a dozen, 2 dozen, 50 times, something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So you were a
Yeah,
busy
for
place.
sure.
You were providing major amounts, like the quantity of doses of cannabis that you were putting out.
A lot, I don't know, a lot.
A
It was
lot. You had high dose edibles.
Yeah.
You had Rick Simpson oil.
Yeah, I had everything.
Everything.
Even shaving cream, man. I had it all.
So yeah, a lot of cannabis, a lot of THC going out into this small community. And in a small community, you wouldn't get away with hurting anybody. You wouldn't get away with anybody not being happy. I mean,
Exactly.
You would hear about that
you
really
would think
quick.
so, yeah.
So, no reason to shut him down, and a whole lot of reason to stay open, and yet the government comes in and says, oh no, we got legalization now, and although Trudeau stated that his legalization was going to take care of the medical people, they came in and shut your medical dispensary down and left all those people hanging, right?
Yeah, shut them all down.
And almost all the rest of them too. I mean, there's some that survive, there's
Yeah.
some that continue to pop up,
Yeah.
but it's been a real concerted effort by our public servants to take away people's access to medical cannabis dispensaries, so
and
that
their
everybody
incomes.
has to go to the government
There's a lot of
non-medical
jobs
stores.
involved.
A lot of jobs too.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a staff that worked for you there, I would imagine.
No, I not really. I pretty much ran everything myself.
Is that right?
But a lot of these other dispensaries certainly had
Oh,
a lot
yeah,
of
lots of
staff.
staff.
Donna Carroll got it.
I mean,
don't
we
know
had
how many
10
people. They had a couple hundred people or something,
Yeah, a warehouse full of people
Yeah,
packaging
yeah.
and what have you all the
Yeah.
time. We had, when we had our little low barrier access dispensary here, the Healing Wave, for 4.5 months, we had 10 staff members that were taking those shifts. We had other people rolling joints for us. We had other packaging being done. So yeah, they really do put a
Imagine doing
dint.
that all on your own, plus making ID cards, dealing with doctors.
You have to be a pretty hyper person to do all that by yourself.
So I had the heart attack, I think.
I think so too.
I had too many
So
things
yeah,
on the go.
and for those who don't know, Jerry suffered a heart attack 3 weeks ago now.
Yeah, on the first, yeah.
And that's due to all the stress that's going on here, and it's been really tough for you.
Yeah,
It's been really
yeah.
tough.
Things get better, and something comes along. But that's life, I guess, too, right?
Well, you had Neufeld, the prosecutor, telling you on a fairly regular basis that he was going to put you behind bars.
Yeah, take.
You lost a lot of your personal belongings, property, cars.
I did an Equifax report the other day, and I still owe $112,000 on those cars that they sold.
that they took
Yeah.
away from you and sold,
Yeah,
and that's got to be extremely stressful.
yeah.
I mean, just the idea that, how did you feel when you had your dispensary? When you had lineups of people and you're helping people and they're all giving you good feedback and nobody's coming and saying,
Yeah.
hey, that weed hurt me. How did you feel?
good, man, with purpose. I had
Yeah.
some sort of purpose. I was a good community member, I was...
You were walking tall and proud, eh?
Yeah, for sure.
You
Yeah,
were
for sure. I
good.
still have my own issues, which psychedelics helped a hell of a lot with since then. I wish I
Right.
knew a little more about it
But
back
the
then.
feeling that you got from doing what you were doing and running that
Yeah, for
dispensary,
sure. Yeah,
and
it's
helping people.
irreplaceable, for
Irreplaceable.
sure. Yeah, I think that's why doctors become doctors and cops become cops and other people do that, and
You
that
get
helping
addicted to helping
perfection.
people.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's why it's a human need is to help people. If you don't
That's
help
right.
people, then you're going to become a totally...
If you see people
You're
that are
missing
in
one of
need
those
and you
human
don't help them, I don't know what
needs,
that does to your psyche,
Yeah,
but
for
it
sure.
can't be
Yeah.
good. But if you see people in need
But
and
you
you
help
help them, well, that becomes
It
addictive.
feels good for both people.
It does.
I
It's
mean, that's what life's all about. So.
We just talked a little bit about the
Yeah.
kindness of,
Can't
of
take your
Glenn
money
singing
away.
happy birthday
Yeah.
to the tattoo guy's mother, and he returned that kindness with saying, hey, that tattoo you want, I'm just going to do that for you. What goes around comes around, and people pay things forward. And so it's a wonderful place to be when you found a way that you can help your community and you're helping your community. So how did you feel when you got the letter saying that you had to cease and desist what you were doing? Did that affect your feeling? Did you pay much attention to that?
Oh, yeah. I called the lawyer right away.
Yeah, because what you were doing was already illegal. You knew that. Every day you could get raided.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that letter made it a lot more concrete of a
I
threat.
did, yeah, I kind of wish they'd mentioned they were going to take all my shit in there. It is what it is. It wouldn't have stopped anyways.
I was going to say,
I wouldn't
because
have stopped anyways.
because you can't stop, can
No,
you?
you can't. I mean,
You
they
can't.
threatened me with a $5 million fine and a couple years in prison. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, what we've done here in Vancouver and been duplicated in other places, probably around the world, but certainly in Canada, is that when the authorities come and shut you down, you open right back up again.
Yeah.
You don't allow that to happen. For two reasons. I mean, one, it's wrong what they're doing, and you can't stand for something that wrong. But most important is you're responsible for people's well-being. You've become responsible to them.
Right.
They're coming to you to get what they need.
Unfortunately, I couldn't reopen.
Yeah,
Not in Whitewood. It was too small a town, and
Yep.
they wiped me right out, man.
Yeah.
They literally took my change. They took everything.
But the letter wasn't enough.
No.
The letter didn't stop you.
No, I had to do what I said I was going to do from the start. I'm like that. I am stubborn as fuck. And it's very important to me that I do what I say, right? So.
Integrity is all you have as a
do
human
a
being.
whiny bit of it,
In case you
get
people
around
don't-
there, but I definitely do what I say.
That's the most important thing in life, in my opinion. The only thing that we have as human beings is our word, is our integrity.
Yeah.
And
I can
all the
drive
other
that-
things are
drive
meaningless.
that nice car. I'm feeling like that, man. You know what I mean? I got another nice car now.
So now, I mean, you stayed open. You didn't shut down in the face of the threats of those letters.
Right, yeah.
And then they shut you down, and they can shut you down if they want. I mean, we
Yeah.
found that out here. If they really want to shut you
they're
down,
parking inside
they can
my
shut you
house
down.
and,
If they get a hard on for doing that, then
I
they
used
have
to
the
chase
power to
them
do
down the
that.
street.
So now, that happens. So all of a sudden now there they are, and you're in handcuffs, and your stuff is gone, and now they're shutting down your dispensary.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I want to go there with you because I've been witness to how some of that feels, but just a glimpse. I mean, that's got to be horrible.
That was crushing, dude. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean, being called a criminal for one thing, having your possessions stolen, that's bad enough. But I mean, the being
I gotta say
denied the
though,
ability
the
to help people-
town made me feel like more like a hero than a criminal. So
Right.
they got together and
even after the bus, they did.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
very touching. Yeah.
Oh, well, that was good to
Yeah.
hear. But
Yeah.
you need some of that for sure,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
sure there would be some of that for sure.
Yeah, when the majority of that community is behind you, it's sad when they go and do something like that,
Yeah. No, it's been a frustrating journey for you, my friend, and I've been torn watching you, unable to do much. We try to give you advice, but advice is, when you're in the middle of that, I mean, advice sometimes can be the antithesis of what you need.
Yeah.
So it's been a tough journey, and I'm really, really proud of you. I really respect you for hanging in there and continuing on. I've watched numerous times during these last 4 years where you felt like giving up, you thought you were going to give up, but you keep on hanging in there, you keep on coming back. I mean, this is important for the whole community to keep going, but it's so difficult for you to do that, and I'm so sorry that that's been put on your shoulders. and the resulting toll that it's taken on you personally. I mean, a heart attack is nothing to sneeze at.
I'm gonna pay all those bills still in there, and I still pay for all that hydro and all that. You know, 5 years later, I just got a
we're into our 5th year now.
I got a $10,000 lawyer bill again the other day. Yeah, it adds up. Yeah.
Well, hopefully that can get done with fairly quickly, and we can be over that.
Yeah, well, things are okay.
And we'll kick their ass in court again. You know, of course you will. They got nothing, no justification whatsoever. You know, I can't wait till we're on the other side of this. You know, for me, you know, I hate injustice. I hate things that are not reasonable. I hate fucking bullies. I've never liked that at all. When I found out 16 years ago, after volunteering at the pot rallies and protests for 5 years, I still didn't have a good handle on what it was all about. I just didn't. I hadn't really been paying attention to some of the things that were said at those rallies. I had never done research into it. I knew it was wrong. I knew 100% it was wrong. I was well aware of what it took to be a criminal. And the whole prohibition of cannabis certainly did not meet that criteria at all. I want to be a good guy. I grew up wanting to be a good guy. That's who I was. When I played with my toys, I was the good guy. I was the guy who would come in and see a bully taking advantage of somebody, and I'd beat him up, or whatever I did. But that's who I wanted to be.
We're bringing G.I. Joes next week.
Yeah, I mean, that's just who I wanted to be. I don't know why. I mean, my parents were Christian people, and they had taught me, morals and ethics, and we got a lot of talk about morals and ethics at our family around the dinner table every night, and I was hell-bent on being the good guy in whatever scenario, but I found that cannabis helped me. I found that can't be a crime to have cannabis, and that really drove me nuts, and that's why I was going to the pot rallies. And then after 5 years of going there, I agreed to do the renovation on what became the Herb School with David Malmo Levine there. And that long weekend renovation is where I really looked into it. I mean, David is a university-trained historian, and he was right all over that topic. I was reading The Emperor Wears No Clothes every safety meeting we took during that long weekend, and having my mind blown. I didn't know all that stuff. I didn't know cannabis was a building material, and I knew you could make some sort of textile out of it, but I thought that was like potato sacks, the real coarse.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it could make all kinds of fantastic, fabulous fabrics and things like that.
Checking out their batteries the other day.
It's good for so many things, and I learned that during that time, and I got so upset about it that I had to quit my job and try to do something about it. And then I learned more and more about it. And the more I learned, and it goes on every day. I learn more stuff every day, and the more I learn, the more there should never have been a prohibition on cannabis. It was never a crime to grow or distribute or possess or use cannabis. There was no way it fit any definition of a crime. It is one of the most glaring and obvious examples in our world of how corrupt governments can get, how wrong things can get. And here I am still fighting that fight.
Can be.
And I still don't like unreasonableness. I don't like bullies. And I'm not going to stop until we get some sanity in our world. And, I threatened to quit in Glenn's segment there as soon as we get our license here. But for me, it's more than that, and I know I can't quit. I know that once we get proper legalization of cannabis, then that needs to become the catalyst for freedom in general and all the other things that we should be getting as free human beings that we're not. That if the government...
It's all about freedom,
It's all about freedom for me.
Yeah.
And I am going to stick around, and I am going to make sure that this legalization becomes real. And it's not real now, it's fake. But when it becomes real, and when ordinary free people can walk into a store like anybody can walk into a drugstore and purchase whatever cannabis they want in whatever form, in whatever dose, then and at reasonable prices that aren't artificially inflated by government, then we will have gotten cannabis freedom. But we do need to make sure that extrapolates to getting all of our rights back. To get government's in the box they belong to be in, because they're sure not in there now.
Yeah, they need to take us, us not being a box.
We need to reset. Yeah,
Box.
we're not the ones that are supposed to be in a box.
Yeah.
Other than not to hurt other people.
You pay your taxes. That's all that matters. You know what I mean? Pay for the streets, and schools, and you know what I mean. Why
pay your share. Don't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
And taxes should be reasonable.
Yeah.
And governments shouldn't be paying off their inside
They
buddy
should be
friends.
equal.
there needs to be proper limits on what governments can do. There needs to be transparency so that they are seen to be doing whatever it is they're doing. And that can be achieved through having a small video crew, a 2-man crew maybe, following every one of our MPs around from the time they leave their house in the morning until they get home at night. And they're not doing any work at home at night, and then we get to see what's going on. No closed-door meetings with the leaders of industry and their lobbyists to be threatened and bribed into, kowtowing to big money. None of that should be allowed. All of that should be absolutely criminal. I mean, if a crime is intentionally causing harm to somebody, and the penalty is determined with a set of scales, blindfolded older woman, you know what I mean? Holding a set of scales where on one side they put the damage that they can prove that you did, and on the other side a penalty to balance those scales.
Well, my sign, man. It's the scales.
Is the scales? You're a Libra?
Born to sell shit, man.
There you go. Yeah, and to keep balance. I mean, the scales are about balance, right?
Yeah.
And so,
exactly, fairness, man. Yeah.
So that if you're committing a crime where you know you're doing damage and you still do it, and how much damage do you do depends on your penalty. If you're in a position of a public servant, that's a very fragile place to be. I mean, because you got to be very careful what you do. You can't be signing into law things that are going to hurt people. You have to be very careful about that. When you, as a public servant, decide to sign into law the prohibition of cannabis, I mean, look at what's happened after all that time. We've got millions of people worldwide with serious criminal records now for possession of cannabis.
That's a lot of cookies, man.
That's a lot of cookies. You
Right
can't see that at home, but you don't know it at home, but you guys are sitting on a huge pile of cookies right now. And that's for our Cannabis Substitution Program, and that's Mary that bakes all of those things.
Yeah, she's great.
She's absolutely great. We are going to miss you, Mary, so much. Not just because of all the baking you do for us, but you're such a wonderful soul. We've really appreciated your energy.
Where's she going?
She's going back to Ontario because her son is there, and her son is struggling, and she can help him, and so she's going to help him. But she's not going to abandon the CSP. She's going to take it with her.
Good.
And I think it's London, Ontario, that she's going to open a satellite chapter there.
Yeah.
And there's a great need there as well, apparently.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to the East Coast Cannabis Substitution Project as well. Chris Backer and all of his wonderful volunteers doing amazing work over a year of providing high-dose edibles to the community there in Nova Scotia. Such amazing work that they're doing. I follow all of their posts and I repost them and stuff. But that needs to happen everywhere, and we're really hoping, I know that Chris is watching our progress very closely here, as are a number of other people that want to do this in their communities. And if we can just get our public servants to stop running a protection racket, the racketeering that they're doing for the legal cannabis that they are controlling, then we can have low barrier access. We can have the Cannabis Substitution Program in every city that needs it across Canada and probably around the world. And that would be a wonderful thing. And that would be a real big part of the solution to the opioid crisis for sure. So we're really hoping that happens. Well, are you optimistic? You think you're going to do well in court? How do you feel?
Flow.
Go with the flow. You're not going to go with any preconceived ideas?
No, I think if they were to listen to the law, we'd win.
Yeah.
But I totally don't trust the government.
Never trust the government.
You know what I mean? But I guess it all depends on the judge.
Yeah, the courts have been pretty good to us.
Yeah, it's been a while now. Legalization's been a while. Maybe we'll see the hypocrisy of what they've done.
You got a great ruling out of Queen's Bench in Alberta, where they struck down the unconstitutional THC limits. Yeah. Talked about low barrier access. Talked about storefront access. Talked about the constitutional right that Canadians have to be able to access cannabis medicine through a storefront like everybody else accesses their medicine, So it should happen, it could happen, and I'm optimistic for you. I think it'll be, I think you'll get a big win out of that, and you're going to set some good
I think
precedents.
it's going to be a lot better than it was from the start.
Yep, I think so too.
Okay.
Every few days there's another study coming out.
Yeah.
John Conroy, that gentleman has been so good to us, and
he's
selflessly helping our organization and what we're doing here. He's coming up with new studies every couple of days that are being released, some locally from here in Vancouver as well, but from all over the place.
I follow him. He's been doing a lot of fungi hunting on the island.
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
Yes, he has. Be careful when you're fungi hunting because not all of that stuff is edible.
Take the pictures.
Yeah, exactly. Be
Yeah.
careful if you're fungi hunting out there.
Yeah.
You pick the right ones, it can be very helpful.
Yeah.
If you pick the wrong ones, that can be the end of you.
Yeah.
So, very good, Jerry. I really appreciate you coming and updating us on everything here. All the best in the journey. Keep us up to date. Next week we'll do it again.
Yeah.
And we're getting closer to April.
Yeah.
We're getting closer.
I got a message from another licensed dealer today from MindTech, so that's good.
You want to talk a little bit about what you're doing on that front?
Sure, yeah. So we're basically creating a biopharmaceutical company creating psychedelic-inspired drugs.
Right.
That are going to help with, opiate addictions.
How can people
mental
follow
health.
what you're doing?
There is a website, mindtech.ca. It's in the midst of being built, but it's going to get built a lot faster now since I'm getting my truck fully wrapped. So people can
You can't be driving around with a website being advertised without having the
it's
website.
like an Alex truck.
Nice. I can't wait to see that.
Me too, man. I'm looking forward to that.
We're thinking we're going to wrap the RV as a Scooby van from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I see. I got a picture of that on my phone.
Yeah, John is all over that, so that should be awesome too. He even made a picture and put me in the seat there and put Jen by the window and John's in there and Mary's in there.
That's
hilarious.
good. Yeah.
And we're really hoping that we get back into our store and that we can use that RV as an outreach vehicle to continue to go into neighborhoods and help rescue people.
Just like the
from
Neil
there.
Exchange program, right? Yeah.
Just like that, but different. But as far as outreach goes, exactly. And we can rescue a lot of people down here. We can't rescue them all, but we can rescue some.
About maybe collabing with the Neil Exchange and giving out cannabis with the rigs.
Well, the Overdose Prevention Society has got that going on.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
They're helping people get access to high dose edibles that come into their facility there. So that's awesome of them. Very good, sir. We'll catch up with you next week and see where you're at and see where you're headed for. And
sounds good.
hopefully it's going to be good things all the way around.
It's coming up pretty quick now.
It's coming up pretty good.
Yeah.
So I got a guest in the studio that I want to bring into the chair for a minute. He's been chomping at the bit to say things to people. So Landlord is a fixture on the downtown east side. He's been helping his community for a long time. He's been the Grand Marshal of our global marijuana marches on numerous occasions. And we just want to check in with him and see how he's doing and see what's new with him and how he feels about the future of legalization in Canada and the rest of the world. Landlord, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Neil. I wasn't teasing you. I know I'd go on your show eventually. It's a good
Well,
show.
I mean, you get more cameo appearances than most people anyway, But we haven't actually had guests on the show for a few months now. We've been involved in the continuing saga of the pursuit for the community cannabis shop with low barrier access, and that has become the theme of our shows here. And we've been spending the guest version or segments of the show out at the RV and giving people a little bit of a taste of what we're doing out there. What's new with you? What are you doing these days?
Oh, still waiting for the heart procedure.
You're another heart patient.
Yeah, I've been tired lately, but I've done all their tests, like guinea pig on the treadmill and blood tests. I escaped St. Paul's Hospital before the COVID started on the heart floor. So
Yeah, they got some bad outbreaks there.
they had some bad outbreaks, so I made it out just in time.
Yeah. So you've been down here for a long time, on the
50
downtown
years.
east side.
50.
You've been on the ground level, on the front lines. It's been a war zone down here for forever. It's always been a place where people come to meet other like-minded people who've been traumatized by life the way that they have and have cycled into poverty, because we have all these services down here to help people. So this is where they come. But for you personally, I mean, you get to know the people. You've seen a lot of carnage. You've seen a lot of people pass away. You've seen a lot of people cycle downward into addiction, where they start out as fairly, well-functioning people, but then you see them a couple of years later, and it's just horrible. Is that take a toll on you?
It does. I've had 3 people pass away since Christmas.
Wow.
3 Native brothers overdose.
Just since Christmas.
Just
I mean,
since
we're not even
Christmas.
finished January yet.
They come to your outreach and that at times, it helps. But, if the city would stop picking on you and say, hey, we got to realize this guy is very resourceful, just your outreach. The reefer van, helping people, getting CBD stuff into them,
Yeah, we should be helped by government.
we should be. It's legalized. I don't know what's wrong with their head, man. They need to give their head a shake.
Their legalization doesn't include us.
I know. Unless they were on the street, you put yourself in our shoes for a day, and you come on down here. You come hang out with me for a day, and I'll show you what it's like down in the hood. Because I've lived this Hastings Street for 50 years now, and I've seen a lot of people pass away, a lot of people hurting, and your program, I give it 2 thumbs up if I was Cisco and Ebert. And
We know we're doing the right thing. We're really meeting the needs of our community in profound ways here. And like I say, government should be helping us. But if they can't help us, they should at least get out of the way. They shouldn't be interfering with us. We should feel like we're safe to do what we're doing. And they have not given us that sense at all. Even at Van Du, every time I'd show up at Van Du with my car full of edibles to hand out, I was aware that at any time they could decide to come in there and take our edibles away and slap us down. Thankfully, that never happened. But this neighborhood takes its toll on people in a lot of different ways. And in your position as being an elder, as being one of the leaders and one of the people that people look up to here, you're someone that has been there to help people. Every time someone's in need, if you're aware of it, you're there. That's got to take a big toll. Do you think that had a role to play in your heart?
I think a percentage, because it really hurts my heart to see
I've
the
seen
battle. I'm down to a cane, and
You've lost not just 3 people since Christmas, but I've witnessed you lose so many people, family members, so many people that you're grieving for on a regular basis down here. That's got to be really hard.
And I continue to meet people on the streets. If I have a joint or an edible, I give it to them because I know they need it more than I do, and I'll just hang in there. I know where to go, to the RV here on Cordova and Main.
We had a person come to our RV in the last couple of days who said that they were sent to us by a VPD officer. That they were looking to...
Yeah, Jerry.
See you guys.
Have a good
Have a
day.
great week. We'll talk to you soon. They were on Hastings Street. They were looking to buy street drugs. They encountered a VPD officer who strongly suggested they come and see us at the RV to get a safe option. So that was really encouraging. I wrote an email today to the Deputy Chief of Police here in Vancouver, Steve Ray. He's been an ally of ours. He was at the Vancouver Police Department board meeting when I presented the project to them over 4 years ago. And he came and sought me out and shook my hand, and we've had an email exchange ever since about prohibition and other things. And so I wrote him a letter today to just update him on where we are, that there really is no change still. We're now going into our 13th week of being out in the RV. 3 months. 3 months.
It's been 3 months already.
And it's winter months. We've been 3 winter months out in the RV. We have burned about $1,500 worth of propane in those 3 months to keep warm out there. When we were raided by the VPD, they insisted that we take our tent and our signs down. When we opened back up again and defied their warnings of not doing what we're doing, I made the decision to try to keep a bit of a low profile, to not put it too much in their face what we're doing. We've kept the RV where it is, but we have not put our signs back up, and we have not put the tent back up, except on a few occasions when we had our hot food people that come twice a week and it was raining. On those days, I felt it was more important to give people some shelter to get the hot food. But other than that, they're standing there in the pouring cold rain at the side window of the RV to get what they should be able to walk into a nice, warm, safe store to get. So it's been 3 hard months out there, 13 weeks coming, now we're in our 13th week. We applied to Health Canada, to the federal justice minister, considerably more than 4 months ago now, before we were kicked out of our store, in an emergency application for a ministerial exemption to keep us from being evicted and to allow us to safely operate our project here. And they did not respond. They didn't respond until just before Christmas. In that response, which I must say was very positive, they were apologetic for taking so long. They said that it was complicated, what we were asking them to do. Only complicated because of the Cannabis Act, the legalization that they brought in. If it was proper legalization, it wouldn't be complicated at all for us to be doing what we're doing. But because of the way they've tried to structure this so-called legalization, it's very difficult for them to allow low barrier access to cannabis for medical purposes. But we've applied in a very comprehensive way, providing numerous studies, providing letters of support from doctors, professors, and the top experts in the field agree with what we're doing. Dr. M.J. Malloy has done numerous studies showing the effectiveness of our program and of cannabis in general as a replacement therapy for opioid addiction. And so, we've applied in a timely manner. We've done it in a way that a government can't say no to our application, because it's very clear in there from all of the experts that we are definitely making an impact on our community, saving lives, and if we were to stop doing what we're doing, people would be put at risk of death. And people that we will otherwise rescue from their addiction will not be rescued. So we've got all of that. It's before Health Canada's Special Licensing and Exemptions Division, and it's certainly before the Health Minister, Patty Haydu, and we're just waiting. They said early January they should have the exemption for us, but here we are, we're almost at the end of January, and we're still waiting to hear back. So it's a real frustrating situation where we as a community, this is a community-based harm reduction initiative that we have taken on here that has had great success for 4 years. We've dispensed over 100 pounds of cannabis flower. We've dispensed over 12 million milligrams of cannabis high-dose edibles to people. And with no problems, with no complaints, no one's ever been harmed, and we have an abundance of testimonials in favor of what we're doing. This should not be hard for the government to support, but it seems to be. So that's what's going on with that.
Our government's on Indian time, you know that, don't you? It takes them forever.
I think they're on corruption time.
Corruption time, their time.
Their time. I mean, this is all about corruption, and there's no avoiding it. I mean, I'm not trying to bash the government. I'm just telling it the way that it is. That they've allowed for financial interests and political interests to get involved in what we're trying to do here in saving the lives of people who are struggling in our community. And political and financial concerns should not be involved. But they want to protect the bottom line profits of the shareholders, of the licensed producers, and the people that are running these stores. And that's just unconscionable, that their biggest interest would be in protecting financial corporate interests than in actually saving people from this scourge of drug overdose that they are responsible for in the first place. It's only government policy that has driven street drugs and street dealers and fentanyl-tainted opioids and other drugs, all because of government policies. That's what's brought us to here, and now government is reticent to get involved with helping us. In fact, they're actively involved in trying to prevent us from doing what we're doing here. Perhaps they think that if they wait long enough that we'll just go away, that it'll be too difficult for us to continue on without their support. But trust me, that's not going to happen, because the people that I've attracted into our Serious Hope Society and that support us in what we're doing here are extremely compassionate people who care a lot about this community, and we're not about to let corrupted government policies stop us from doing what we're doing. So if they say no, you can't have a license, we're going to sick the police on you, we will find other ways. We will continue. Trust me.
We're going to persevere. We're not going to give up.
We're not going to give up. We have lots of contingency plans. We know what we're going to do if they say no. They won't succeed in shutting us down. So stop now, please. Just support us. Be the good guys. Government can be the good guys. There is a lot of political currency in helping our project. There will be a lot of people across Canada. Many people have been touched by the overdose crisis. There's a lot of people in Canada that would really be pleased with a government that would embrace and support what we're doing. And certainly on the other hand of that, there's a lot of political currency at play, because if they are to deny us, then there's a lot of people in Canada that are going to want to know why, that are going to want some justification for that, and they really have none, because we have proven it. We have 4 years of demonstration. We've been demonstrating for 4 years the safety and the efficacy of cannabis as a way out of hard drug addiction, especially high-dose edibles, and we've been proving the safety of cannabis with respect to how much of it we've given out into this community, and that there's been no problems as a result. So government, do the right thing, be seen as the good guys, help us, and we can move forward in good ways here, or the battle will continue and you will be made to be the bad guys and you will lose, because we're not going to give up. There's too many of us, we care too much. Our goals are righteous. Our goals are about saving people that need help, and your goals are about protecting corporate interests, and that will not bode well when it comes to the electorate and how they feel about the governments that are in power in Canada during this time. So there's great opportunity here for the government to do the right thing and get some really good political currency out of it, and hopefully they're smart enough to want to avoid the fallout from interfering with our ability to help people here. So
I think people who are watching this today, because I just asked Glenn, because I wanted to get the link so I know what to watch.
right?
So you people out there who are a bunch of regulars, you guys start sharing this link with others so we
I
can
think
get
they
the
do.
word out there.
Yeah.
Make a stand and share a link a day or every week, and let's make this multiply. Let's get the word out this way too, and
That's what people can do.
they can do that.
Yeah.
You got the link. You're on this. You're watching us now. Hi, I am.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, but yeah, just
Write letters.
Write letters. Yeah.
Make phone calls. It's easy to send an email to the Justice Minister of Canada. It's really easy to do that. Just Google the contact info, bang off an email. It doesn't take very long. Put your thoughts and your hearts down on paper, and let them know what we're thinking here in Canada. That there is political currency involved for sure. There's a lot that people can do without actually having to do too much, and you need to do something. This world is going to hell in a handbasket the way it's going. It's upside down, backwards, and inside out. And what's right is wrong, and what's wrong is right, it seems. And we need to, as people, take hold of our situation and steer us back into reasonableness and into a society where people are kind to each other, where governments help people be kind to each other, and where governments do not support bad policies to protect corporate interests, which is what we've got going on here right now. The successful lobbying of our public servants by these corporations that have resulted in cannabis prohibition and opioid prohibition and all the other prohibitions that are out there causing problems in our society simply to protect corporate interests, it has to stop. We have to stop this sometime soon. Our whole way of life as human beings is at risk if we can't turn back the tide of corporate influence in our world that's causing us to not be kind to each other and not be able to even help each other, or not even be able to choose options that make sense for us, like cannabis over opioids and things like that. So yeah, it's time and it's important. So I appreciate you pointing that out to people, that they really can help
Very
us.
important. Yeah, every little bit helps.
It does.
10 people are going to share it, and then one person's going to look at it and put that pen down.
One person can't do everything, but if we all do something,
Yeah.
we can do a lot. And that's very important to know that. And we've got to work for the change that we want. It's not going to happen without that, because without us working towards positive change, there's a large corporate influence, very well leveraged influence, that's wanting to make things continue on the way that they are, where they have more power, we have less power, our rights are usurped, and their rights are protected. And that's just the world we're in right now. Mm-hmm. We can change it. This is a way to do it. The correct legalization of cannabis can be a catalyst to providing far greater rights and freedoms than what we have right now, because this is just an example of how freedom is being curtailed. If they can stop you from accessing a natural healing herb that is safer than any other thing out there in nature, and they can prevent you from accessing that to protect financial interests, then my goodness, we are not free and we're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I hope that other people out there find a way to do something as well. And it doesn't have to be much. I realize I'm fortunate in my life. My family has grown up, and I'm, I got lots of free time in my life. I've lived my life, so I'm not afraid of anything. They can't hurt me, and I've got lots of time. But I know that for lots of people out there, they're concerned about their family, they're concerned about their jobs, they're concerned about their well-being in the face of a corrupt government and a corrupt police force. And it does make it difficult to do things. But we can do things. There's lots of ways to do it that can keep you safe. For a long time, before I was a pot activist, I still considered myself a rights activist, but I was afraid to put my name and face out there. I had a young family at the time. I had become aware that the powers that be have great leverage and influence, and if you can put a dent in their operations, they can probably put a bigger dent in you. And so that's how I was for a while. But when I realized 16 years ago in putting the herb school together, the real gravity of the situation, and then when I like I say, I became much more able to do things without having to worry, that I have the position where they can come after me if they want, and I'm not worried about it, and it's not going to stop me. But I do recognize that for a lot of people with families and with things to lose, that a corrupt government can be a dangerous thing. So an even more corrupt government can be an even more dangerous thing than we've got going on here right now. And if we don't stop it, that's what's going to happen. So please find ways. Do it anonymously. Do it in whatever way you can that protects you if you need protection from them. But do it. Do something. It's important. We all need to feel like we're part of the crew, that we're part of what's going to turn this thing around, and that life is too important and our future generations are too important for us to just enjoy our lives and let corruption rule and eke out a decent life without actually doing anything to make it better. I don't think that's the right way to live a life here anymore on planet Earth, because society has gotten to the point where we need everybody to pull together and do what we can to challenge the corporate agenda of co-opting our public servants and co-opting our freedoms. So that's how I feel about that.
You can do it.
We can do it, man. So what do you think, Landlord? Should we go visit the RV?
Yeah, I got a joint there for everybody.
Yeah, I'm not smoking today.
Oh, okay. I'll smoke
Yeah.
it for you.
You can smoke it for me, or I can save it for
Let's
later.
go to your
It's
RV.
because you're old.
Yeah, it is. That's what I was trying to say. Glenn didn't like that very much. But when I was younger, I could deal with stress a lot better than I'm able to deal with it now. I don't know why. But I live a very stressful life in trying to fight government to
Paper John.
obtain basic freedoms and to do the right thing. And living down here, it's been 16 years since we opened the herb school.
Yep.
It's been 4 years since we did our
Wow.
16 since the herb school. I did 4 years at Van Du, 3.5 before moving to this location. And that's a lot of time to spend in a neighborhood where there's so much chaos and death and corruption.
Grief.
And I don't know how you've done it all this time. I think if I'd have been there as long as you had, I'd be having heart surgery coming up too.
I was 12 years old. Yeah,
Living under a bridge.
living under a bridge. But yeah,
That was your roots here.
back in 1970. And
You can go back and find Landlord's interview. I don't know what episode. Do you know what episode it was?
no.
It's somewhere in there. Maybe you have to watch a whole bunch to find it. But yeah, you talk a lot about your upbringing, your childhood, how you ended up under a bridge at 12 years old, living in New York for a long time, and other places around the continent here.
Yeah, about 48 states, Mexico, Panama, Haiti,
Yeah.
87, yeah.
It's been quite a life.
Hey, my kid rolls joints for you now.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, Landlord was one of the original Holy Rollers back in the day.
He was.
He's rolled a lot of joints for us. We still require joints here. We distribute a lot of joints into the community. When people show up and they don't have any money, we just give them a joint and we give them a cannabis cookie. When people come and they want to be part of the program and we can't include them because we have 250 people already, 300 people on a waiting list, And until we have substantially more funding and support, we have to maintain that 250, and so that's what we do. But when people show up and we can't include them in that, we make sure that they know that they can come to us every day and they can get a joint and they can get a cookie. So I really appreciate you and your son
I can't
rolling
roll
for us.
anymore.
Yeah, I guess it's not you and your son anymore, is it? You're just a supervisor.
I'm just arthritis in the hand a bit. Without the CBD, it'd be painful, but I use a rolling machine now, and sometimes that's hard.
Well, that's okay. You can use a rolling machine. There's no requirement for people to have to roll by hand. I like it myself. Even if you're rolling with a rolling machine, just an individual one, I think that's fine. That each and every one of the joints that are produced has a little bit of love put in there, a little bit of personal care and attention. Whereas if it's a big machine and you dump a bunch of weed in and you sift it down into the tubes and you punk it down in, I don't think that's quite as personal. So I'm kind of happy that we have the personally rolled joints that we have. I'm going to try to maintain that for as long as we can here. But we do put out a lot of joints into the community, and I really appreciate your efforts in keeping those coming for us, even if you are just mostly a supervisor now.
Oh,
I'm sure Edward needs supervision too. So.
oh yeah.
So yeah, let's go see.
To the reefer van.
Let's go see the reefer van. Let's see what's going on here in the downtown east side of Vancouver in our quest for a low barrier access community cannabis shop and cannabis as a safe option for people.
Go ahead and grab a drink of water.
Okay. Did we get any visits from by the top today, did we? Where is he sleeping? He's upstairs sleeping. It's cold out, but at least it's not raining. And we were supposed to have some snow, but that really didn't transform into being reality here. We got a bit of hail yesterday that stuck for a little while. But other than that, it's just been really cold. And it's cold in the RV, but we do have a heater in there as well. And there's our little open sign. Hello.
There you go.
What's going on in there? It smells like weed.
Oh, yes, because we're not using AeroFresh.
That's right. That's right, because we're not using AeroFresh. It smells like
Can I
weed.
have your license and registration?
We're bringing marijuana to these sites.
We are.
These guys told me that
pretend to be
their
a
boss
cop.
allows them to smoke weed, so I came in to smoke a joint with them.
Did you tell them to call?
What?
Yeah, they told me that their boss allows them to do that.
Well, allows them to do it. I thought you were going to say the boss doesn't allow them to do it. That's why you did it.
Did you happen to mention a really cool story about how one of our members
I did.
found out about us?
I did. So I'm sorry you don't get to tell us that story, but there might be other stories you can tell us.
Isn't
I'm
that
not
funny?
sure.
Looking for a legal dispensary, and the cop says, no, go to the van over there.
Yeah. I didn't realize he was looking for a legal dispensary.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
Oh. Well, that's even better then.
yeah. And the cop told him that we have the best
Coming
stuff
in.
in town. But we don't know whose name.
Yeah. And I mean, the cops probably know that we have the best weed because they seized a whole bunch of it. And by now they've probably
That's what I
smoked
said.
a
I'm
bunch
like,
of
you
it.
probably tried some of the weed they stole in our raid.
Jen, you want to see
Yeah.
it?
So Jen Nelson and George over there. We got Andrew. Of course, y'all know Glenn.
You all know.
Yeah, just from earlier in the show. That's all. I'm talking about the new viewers. You know, all the old viewers, they know everybody. But for the new viewers, this is the crew out in the Cannabis Substitution Project Healing Wave Reefer Van,
Scooby Dooby.
the Scooby Dooby van. I got asked today, is the marijuana van still there? So it's
It's
really
got a
gaining.
few names.
It's got a few names out there, and that's
Clearly, we're well known.
that's a sign of popularity. Is when you have
even
more
the
than one
cop
name.
is fucking sending people here. Like we're well known in the community.
Yeah. I mean, I've had the cops, some of the cops that I've talked to about what we're doing here and about our problems with the VPD and others. I've had them say, just be persistent, just keep doing what you're doing. And this is from police officers telling us to continue to do this, even though their bosses have told us to stop. So, you know, we got a lot of support amongst the members of the
Wow.
VPD and certainly this community. I mean, we're
Well,
very
even
well.
the one parking guy that told us to stop paying. He's
Yeah,
'cause
that's
he
right too.
supports us.
The VPD sicked the parking enforcement people on us. A manager came a couple of times and threatened us and said we were getting tickets every day if we didn't move. And I said, well, you do what you have to do, sir, but in all good conscience, we need to be where we are and I can't stop The people that are part of our program, many of them don't have contact information. We wouldn't know how to get a hold of them to tell them that we've moved to another location. So we need to be where we are. But though he gave us one ticket, but there was no ticket the following day. There's been none since. And just the other day, we had a parking guy come here and tell us that we didn't have to put money in the meter. So I ran down the street when I was told that to talk to him about that. I wanted to know if that was an edict that had come down from his superiors or whether that was just his own personal choice. He said that that was his discretion and that he thought what we were doing was great and that as long as there was somebody in the RV that there was no need to put any money in the meter. I said, well, if it's not coming from your superiors, then I'm a little concerned about that because, you know, when they come and empty the meters out, if there's no money in the one for here, then that could cause us some problems. So I said I really respected his decision to not ticket us, but I felt that we should continue to put money in the meter. So we do. We keep the meter up to date all day, every day. And yeah, we don't want any problems. We're doing everything we can to avoid problems and to overcome them when they arise. And that's just, you know.
No reason to poke the bear, right?
No reason to poke the bear.
No reason to poke the bear.
Not putting my signs
Keep
out.
the bear is honey,
you
and
know.
he'll be a little bit happier.
Yeah, I mean, we've got, we are here to provide an opportunity for government and police to look good.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do. Support what we're doing, you'll look good because we look good.
Because they're saving lives. Like
Everybody in the community supports us. We get people coming here all day long saying, man, thank you guys so much. I love you guys. You guys are the best. I mean, it's just over and over again we get these comments. It's bloating our heads a little bit, but, you know, can't be helped, I guess. Like Andrew's head is about twice the size of what it used to be, but his hat still fits. You
I hear
know.
them thanking us. They thank me every day for giving them 420 and being here, and they love it. It's helped them tremendously.
Yeah.
Andrew runs the back door along with George there,
And
and that's the
you've seen the difference in the
CSP.
people?
I've seen lots of difference.
Yeah, because you get to meet the people all the
Sure I
time,
do.
right?
We get
Yeah.
to talk for a few minutes too. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've been here. You've been with us. You were my head volunteer for most of the time at Van Du.
Sure I was.
And,
I love what I'm
Knock on the
doing.
door.
yeah, and now you're kind of managing the CSP side of things over there. And Jen,
Yeah.
she's kind of managing the whole thing, but you know, especially the Healing Wave side of things. And Jen also was a volunteer at Van Du for almost the whole time. You spent a little bit of it in the lineup,
Yeah.
and then worked your way onto the
And I
holy
wind
roller
it up,
table.
you know, let me volunteer. And finally,
Yeah.
I found out Ted lived right around the corner from me, so one night
Ah.
he invited me over to smoke and roll a few, see if I could roll a joint.
Yeah.
They might not have been the prettiest joints, but they were,
Yeah, we've had some issue with your joints.
they're much
got
better
better.
now.
You're getting
She's got
better.
better. She's got
Practice
better.
is a
Yeah.
wonderful
Yeah.
thing. If you
It is,
can't
it
roll
is.
joints,
After
the reason
20
is you
years.
haven't practiced enough.
Yeah.
Or maybe you got bad fingers or fat fingers. I don't know.
Hey,
but
these guys are
or only
missing.
8 out of 10 fingers. That might.
Andrew's missing fingers too and rolls.
And he
beautiful
rolls really
joints.
good joints. In fact, Andrew's joints are
Beautiful.
famous down here. But if you want to learn how to roll joints, find a beach or get yourself a bucket of sand and just try rolling sand for a while. And when you get the hang of that, go back to rolling weed. You'll find it's way easier.
Yeah, sand's gonna rip your
But yeah,
paper.
so we,
Sand is hard to roll.
so yeah, we ate a bunch of edibles and rolled
Did
a
you?
bunch of
Oh, that
joints
night.
and
Yeah, if you could
yeah,
roll,
you'll fit
if you
in.
could roll dry weed, then you can roll weed.
Yes, yeah. If you can roll
Exactly.
dry, yeah.
Yeah, the real fine stuff.
It just
Yes.
rolls right out the end.
Like, basically.
Then you can roll and you can roll.
So how's the day today been?
It's actually been pretty busy.
Yeah,
Donations
pretty
are
busy.
up.
Donations have been down quite a bit from when we were in the store for the most part. We do have our donation box here, and there are people that put in there and tell us to, you know, we don't allow for tips. Nobody gets a tip here. You know, all the money, anything
Although
that
they
comes
do
in.
bring us cute little gifts or little snacks.
Yeah, they do find ways around the no tip rule. And it's not that there's no tips, it's just that none of us here take any of it. Everything goes into the CSP. You know, every little bit helps us help people, so we want to do that. But yeah, they've been down since we've not been able to be in the store for sure.
Although Amy Duncan's grandma apparently has some cookies for us.
Very
Oh,
nice.
nice.
Very nice.
And I bet that they're really good because Amy knows how to cook too.
Well, Amy's grandma's the one that taught her how to do edibles.
Oh,
so I'm
there you
assuming
go.
they're
See,
pretty
there we
damn
go.
good then.
Yes, they'll be the level up.
Amy's cupcakes knocked me on my ass.
Yeah, Amy's stuff is
Yes,
really good.
yes, that did happen.
But I did eat like 4 or 5 or something.
Oh, did you eat that many?
There were so many different ones. I couldn't choose one.
Oh
so.
my God. Discipline. You must discipline
Yes.
yourself.
Have you ever
You're one
watched
to
Neil's
talk,
show
sir.
where he says start
That's
low?
why I know.
Start low. Start slow.
My lack of discipline that caused me all this problem.
Well, yeah, but see, for me, like, most edibles either don't have any effect on me or very little effect on me.
Right. Even
So
at
I, of course, figured I was safe.
even at 300 milligram.
But they were great, man. I had a great sleep. It was-
Wow,
it was
great
good.
sleep. Yeah,
I've
that's
had
good.
37 people today for 420 milligrams.
Damn,
Wow.
that's a busy
Pretty good. Yeah,
day.
that's a pretty big.
That's
Pretty big.
That's a
Thank
lot of
God,
snow.
Mary
400.
McCarty, the wonderful lady out there.
Thanks to
Yes,
Mary.
thanks to
Brought a
Mary.
whole bunch
And,
of
and I
edibles
want to say
today.
again, I mean, we
She's a
did get a
sweetheart.
donation from Marie. She's a constant watcher of the show, and she's been sending us donations regularly for quite a while now. Very valuable, very powerful. Thank you, Marie. We got a wonderful donation from the BC Craft Growers Co-op. They had a fundraiser during one of their Christmas parties.
Oh, I remember hearing that
And
guy
John
talk.
Conroy is holding that money in trust for us right now.
How much
Nice.
is it?
It's about a little under $1,700.
Wow,
So
there you go.
that's very
Very
powerful
nice.
for us. We may be able to
Hello.
increase the list a little
Yeah,
bit
how are you?
because of that. We'll see what we do with it.
Yeah.
But right now it's just in trust, and we'll decide that when the
Beautiful.
time comes. For now, like I say, nobody gets turned away. Everybody gets at least a free cookie and a joint, and
Awesome.
250 people get 420 milligrams of edibles every 4 days.
Every 4 days. Yeah.
So yeah, we're
Okay.
really, really thrilled that that project is
And it's
happening.
working. We've had positive feedback
So
all the time.
such positive
Everybody
feedback.
says thank you. Everybody says please. You know, you're doing
Well,
a great job. And
Andrew, I mean, you personally, I mean, you were down here, a crack
done it.
user.
And what kind
I've
of
done what they've done.
And cannabis
Yeah.
helped you get off of that.
Yes, it did.
So,
You're at $10 a
you know,
And
month.
we
I've
got,
done what they've done, and it's hard life out there. It's a 9-to-5 job.
yeah, when
You got
you're
to keep going every day. Just to
when
get
you're
another
addicted,
just-
you've really got to keep going out there and
you've
finding
gotta
your money
wake
every
up
day.
and figure out where the day is, where you're going to do today. Are you going to go? Are you going to borrow the money? Are you going to steal
Alright,
the
so
money?
$11.
Or are you going to ask a friend? Or are you going to say you're going to pay it back, but you don't?
Because
That's how hard it
the
is.
money is the problem, right? Because there's
Sure
no
it is.
problem finding crack or finding heroin or finding whatever else you
No,
want
no,
in this
it's everywhere.
neighborhood. They make it really easy for people to access
It's
that.
everywhere.
The dealers will
Yeah.
give a person credit, no problem. If you don't have money today, go ahead, man. Here you go. And then they'll chase you down for it, and that's
they-
part
they
of what
gotta
they're
give
doing
you
out
the-
here.
But sometimes you have to walk out of your place, look over your shoulder. You smoke marijuana, you don't have to look over your shoulder. You can have a great day.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
you
for
can
sure.
get back some of the stuff you've lost.
And you can pay back your friends that you promised
Sure
to pay
you
back.
can.
The comment that we heard so often at the Herb School was that
That's not
cannabis
gonna
puts
find
people
out.
on a different track.
It's
Yeah.
Puts them on a different path from where they are. If it wasn't for being able to access cannabis, now they're out trying to find money so they can go and get the street drugs
Yeah.
that they need to help them with their issues. So it's just so
Cannabis
plain
can
as the
save your
nose on
life.
anybody's face that cannabis needs to be an option for people.
Sure it does.
Not just here, but everywhere. There's
I
no
haven't seen it.
justifiable reason for governments to reduce or restrict or prevent access to cannabis to ordinary people who just want to feel better. They
They
just
wanna be
want to
healthier.
sleep better. They want to be healthier.
Yeah.
They want to get high. I mean, high is not a bad thing. High is not a crime.
No.
It's not a crime to want to feel high. You go and look at sunsets to feel high. You go and watch movies to feel high. You listen to music to feel high. You do all of these things to
Sex
enhance
kinda
your
gets you high.
senses, to heighten your senses,
Yeah.
because that's what
Yes.
high is all about, is feeling really good, feeling euphoric about things. And so cannabis does that for people, and they should be able to go and get it if they want. They shouldn't have to go to some guy's basement suite with the fear of arrest and whatever else might happen there, and
Yeah.
on and on it goes. I mean, we deserve to have stores. It boggles my mind how upside down things can be and backwards,
Oh,
because
wait, here.
people are so concerned about drugs. Drugs are bad. And, oh my God. But there's drug stores everywhere. You see big signs on most street corners in the city. Drugstore, drugstore.
And
Yeah.
there used to be a joke of how Canadian drugstores were the worst because up front you could buy cigarettes that'll kill you, but you had to walk to the back of the store to get the medicine that'll help you.
That's true.
That's so stupid. Yeah,
so
right.
stupid.
That you can buy something that'll kill you right up front, right?
Yeah.
In a drugstore. Yeah.
So we want to have a cannabis store. That's all we
Yeah.
want. Cannabis
And
stores
save lives.
that can have the full range of products, that can have it reasonably priced based on what it takes to bring things to market, and and give people that option. They can have the option of high-priced cannabis too, and lots of people are going to choose
Yeah.
that. Lots of growers are still going to grow with
Yeah.
expensive equipment and great expertise, and a lot of money put into producing cannabis for some small growers, for sure. But
It's just like you can have a
we
Salisbury
need to have
steak,
low
or you can
barrier
have a
access.
filet mignon, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so the same thing
Or
with,
you can have a hot
cannabis.
dog or a steak or
Or a
whatever
steak,
you
yeah,
want.
yeah.
And even then, I mean, yes, cannabis produced by expensive indoor grow situations and experts and the rest of it. I mean, there's justification for some price.
That living
prices for
soil
that.
stuff is pretty expensive.
And the cannabis is really good
Yeah.
that they're producing, like holy crap. But you can produce pretty damn good cannabis,
Yeah.
just out in an outdoor
Yeah.
crop or in a
In the
hybrid
summertime,
greenhouse.
throw some seeds,
Throw some
water
seeds in.
some plants, and see what you get at the end of the year.
I'm sure if the government threw it open, that there'd be people bringing to market raw cannabis, just the buds on the branches with the leaves there, and you can just buy it for some reasonable price per pound, and other ways that cannabis would be able to be made available.
Yeah.
People would do that, but they can't do it because of the government regulations.
I was hoping that Jimmy Patterson, when he was buying up all those old mills, wood mills, that he was going to change those into hemp mills.
Producing
I was hoping,
mills.
because he's been
That'd be a
buying
good
them up.
idea.
He's been buying up the old ones that have been closing
Not
down.
too late.
No, and he's a rich enough man to be able to do that, and that's what we need is the industry. Because a lot of people say they won't grow hemp because there's nowhere to make it into clothing and rope and stuff. It has to all be imported to the States or other countries.
Yeah, you ship
And we
it
can
you
start
ship
doing
it to
that.
another country halfway around the world
Yeah,
to
exactly.
turn it
We
into
can start
clothing.
doing the hemp industry here where we can make our own stuff, and we can definitely have the indigenous people who know how to make clothing, know how to make blankets, know how to make hats, and all kinds of mittens and stuff like that. So we have the people here to do it. We just need the industry to do it.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Some secondary industry to dealing with hemp would go a long way to having more people produce
Shut
it.
down the lumber mills and let's make hemp mills instead.
Like cutting down trees to make toilet paper and toothpicks is just obscene.
Yeah,
It's
20 years just to grow
obscene.
that toilet paper and toothpick. When
Yeah.
you can grow 4 months and have a whole shitload of hemp and make it a lot easier and
And
last a lot
hemp
longer.
toilet paper, I suspect, is even softer than the
Oh,
wood
really?
waste.
I haven't tried.
I just think it is.
But I bet you they could
I
make
wanna
it.
see
they
some.
They can make it softer.
Yes, of course
Yes,
they can.
yes, that's what they'll probably have.
Because we all need soft toilet paper.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't sacrifice 400-year-old trees.
Or bidet.
The bidet works very well. I like,
They don't need no soft
And you
toilet
don't
paper.
need toilet paper at all.
No, you just need a drying thing.
That's right.
At least have little blowers down there too.
And there's been
Push the button.
you
Cool, dry.
they don't have that. I don't know, but
I don't know. I don't
they
think
should
so.
have that.
They should, eh? Yeah.
I'm sure that's coming. I'm sure
We
it's
just
coming.
invented it.
We just invented
We
it.
just invented it. Yes.
Yeah. There's been a lot of advancement in using hemp for building materials. I've
Yeah.
seen some really.
Yeah.
They've been saying it's the new oak, but we need to have it available. We need to get it
Concrete,
into
they can
stores.
make hemp bricks and build a house.
Hempcrete
Yeah.
is a fantastic product as
Yeah.
it traps carbon.
And it helps to insulate the house. I hear that keeps the cool in the cool and the hot in the hot, and when you need it, or vice versa, the opposite of what it does. Yeah, insulation, whatever insulation does.
And there again, more work for farmers, more employment for people. All the secondary industry would put people to work.
Well, that's what they're worried about is the lumber
There's
mills
just
being shut down and
no
people losing jobs.
reasons not to do this,
Yeah.
except that some people are making a bundle off of high-priced cannabis, and they want to continue to do that.
Yeah.
The only reason that we, as a society, have not had our public servants embrace cannabis for us and allow us access to it is greed and corruption. It's time to change that. So,
You've had your chance, now give it to the people.
well, enough is enough
Yeah,
already, right?
They made
I
some
mean,
money now. Yeah.
even the whole legalization of cannabis thing, I think they knew it was going to be a short-term thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not sustainable. You can't keep the price of something up at thousands of dollars per pound.
Especially when we've been doing it for decades at a lower price and being able to not harm
So-
anybody or kill anybody or have anybody OD or anything. So yeah, it's not very
So
long for
I
that.
think this is a big scam. I think that they've gotten together and decided, hey, we can legalize weed in a way that still continues the prohibition against anybody that isn't us selling weed. We can monopolize all of the sales of cannabis for a short time until the whole thing falls apart, because like I say, it's not sustainable.
No.
We'll hype it like crazy.
It's
We'll get a
unsustainable
whole
now.
bunch of people excited about it to go and buy shares.
Yeah.
We'll generate billions of dollars in share
Have
sales,
a collapse.
and then have it all collapse.
Yep.
I think
And
it's
then
just
have
a
the
big
People
scam.
just pick it up and do what we were doing before.
So I think they knew it was a short-term thing. In the short term, they can get all the doctors
Yeah.
to give prescriptions for people to only access through licensed producers.
Yeah.
And that includes soldiers suffering PTSD and injury.
Yeah.
And so there's a fairly large group that are captive,
Yeah.
that they can force into buying from them only.
Those are the doctors who signed on with them. Like my doctor signed on with Aurora, but he doesn't make me buy Aurora stuff. He knows because I was one of his original ones who was before Aurora when he was signing my form, so he doesn't tell me I have to go with these. But there are those doctors who signed on with certain companies.
Well, I'm sure there's incentives for them
Yeah.
to steer their customers
Yeah.
to certain LPs. I don't know that for
And
sure,
what they
but
did
I'm
was they
pretty
just
sure.
took advantage of those doctors because those doctors didn't know anything about marijuana or cannabis like we know,
Right.
and they just like, well, since you're scared, we might as well get them to buy our stuff and make them feel better.
Yeah, because they think
they
that
didn't know any better.
they're
They
putting it
should've-
out there
they
as a
should've
safe
talked to
supply.
their they should have talked to their fellow hippie before they signed up with a company like
Man,
that.
should
you
they
know?
ever talk to the people that actually are involved with cannabis?
Yeah. Like I said, my doctor was from South Africa when he first came here. He was a young doctor. He was dead against cannabis, all drugs, right?
Yep.
Now he promotes cannabis. He tells me when I do a video, he wants me to tell people if you're using cannabis, eat healthy too, please. And you know, he's right on board with it now because he's seen the difference in me. He's seen me change from a person who had PTSD and has used cannabis, and I'm much better and stronger person right now than I was 8 years ago.
Because all of their instructions from the Canadian Medical Association are about don't be prescribing cannabis for people. Make sure if you do, it's only a minimum 5 or maximum 5 grams a day, and all the rest of that. They are very, very corrupt. The doctors are part of an organization that has been very corrupt for a long time in supporting pharmaceutical interests and only promoting those interests and turning their backs on what has been medicine for thousands of years for people in all the forms of different herbal medicine. Not part of what doctors are all about. They want standardized pills for people, but there's so much incentive for them to be providing those pills that it becomes corrupt, and that's what's happened. We can't count on them. I was talking last week on the show a little bit about, where was it, Georgia? Or no, Mississippi, where the people voted for a medical cannabis regime to be implemented, and the American Medical Association is fighting that. They filed an appeal to overturn that.
Wow.
And part of their argument is that by doing that, they are putting doctors at risk because federally cannabis is still illegal. So if at a state level the doctors are allowing patients to use cannabis, if they make a mistake and they don't prescribe it for something that is like, it's got to be really debilitating for you. You can't just have it if you can't sleep well.
No.
You can't just have it if you got some pain. It's
study
got to
it
be a
through.
real serious thing there.
Cancer.
And if a doctor was to allow one of his patients to access cannabis that didn't have some serious life-ending, debilitating situation, then they could be prosecuted by the federal government as a dealer. I mean,
Do we know what Joe Biden's view on cannabis is? Have we heard anything about him yet?
yeah, there's been some positive things.
Positive things, right?
I heard that he was apologetic for some of his previous stances on cannabis.
Yeah.
But,
So,
I've yet to hear all the
might see
details
some
about it.
hope
I mean,
for the
Kamala
American-
Harris, great we have a female in there, but, she's also got a nasty track record of persecuting people and imprisoning people for cannabis crimes. We'll see. I have no love or respect for any U.S. administration that's ever been in power. Not appreciating Donald Trump does not mean that I appreciate Joe Biden or George Bush or anybody else. Their whole system of governance has been very corrupt for a long time. They're the main ones behind cannabis prohibition globally.
Yep.
So, they
just
got
say
a
no.
long way to go there yet. And now the states, many of them are embracing legalized cannabis.
There's a lot of them now. That's what I was
Medical
asking.
and recreational.
Yep.
But they're all pretty much falling into the same sort of thing that we're doing here in Canada, which is to have a few select producers and suppliers that pay huge amounts of money for licenses, and that there's still all these prohibitive restrictions on other people and prohibition and penalties for people growing weed that aren't part of that. There needs to be no penalties for pot. That's all there is to it. Anybody that's growing cannabis is not a criminal. Anybody who's selling cannabis to somebody else is not a criminal.
We have 100 milligrams.
And we need to really end all of that stuff pretty fast here, but we're trying.
Yeah.
$15.
I'm just doing a lot of gifting now.
Yeah.
You know, bartering.
Yep.
Yeah, bartering's good too. You know.
Sure, why
Yeah,
not?
right.
Why shouldn't people each benefit? Why shouldn't we have win-win situations?
Yeah.
What's wrong with people making money? What's wrong with people helping to pay their mortgage
Yeah.
or helping a neighbor get access to something that's going to help them in their life? There's nothing wrong with any of this stuff. We don't need criminal law involved. We don't need over-regulation. We just need the government to get out of the way, let people access cannabis, let that do what it will do in our society, which is stifle violence, increase health, and so much more.
Make us live longer.
Help us live
Less
longer,
cancer.
help us be kinder to each other.
Everybody's looking for a cure for cancer. It could be right here with cannabis.
In many cases,
give them
it
$7
is. I mean,
each for
cancer is a very complicated and wide-ranging disease.
It might not take care of all of it, but it would probably take care of a lot of
For
it.
some of those cancers, cannabis has really proven to be effective and a lifesaver.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just so wrong. You know, I keep going back. I've said it a number of times on the show.
cookies do you want?
I was there filming for Pot TV at Fraser Valley University. A debate between Norm Stampler, he was the ex-police chief of Seattle, who had become a LEAP member, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition at the time, and he was debating Daryl Plekas, who was the spokesperson for the RCMP here in British Columbia. And I mean, he swept the floor with him. I mean, Daryl had nothing. But I remember towards the end there, where it was being pointed out, because this is a long time ago. This is back, I think, in 2005, maybe 2004, and so there was comments about medical cannabis and how now it looked like maybe cannabis was going to be effective for some medical conditions. And Daryl Plekas made the statement of, let's not be hasty, let's not rush into this. The jury is still out. We don't know if it has medical value or not. But if it does, then we're going to really have to revisit why we would prohibit it with the criminal law.
Yeah.
Well, Daryl, we have come a long way since then.
Yeah.
And cannabis is absolutely, definitely medicine for a lot of people in a lot of variety of ways. There is no justification for making a person a criminal for wanting to use cannabis, even if he's not using it for what would be considered a medical condition. There is no justification for calling a person a criminal and using the criminal law against people who want to access cannabis or want to distribute or grow cannabis. It's long overdue. Daryl should do what Norm Stampler
He doesn't
did.
have his job anymore, does he, Daryl? Because
where he is right now.
They hired a new lady or a new guy or something.
Yeah, he was Speaker of the House.
So I
He
think we
ran
have our
and
first,
was elected as an MLA for the Liberal Party.
I think we have our first East Asian Speaker of the House now, isn't it? I
see.
think it was Mr. Ravi or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know, so I don't want to comment on it because I'd probably be in error.
But
Daryl, I mean, he should do what Norm Stamper did: recognize the error of his ways, and now go on a campaign to make sure people have access to cannabis.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if he's an ethical guy or not. He presents himself as such, but if he was, he would have bitten the bullet and swallowed his pride and recognized that he was wrong. Cannabis should never have been prohibited with the criminal law or any other law. And he should do something about that if he can. So I don't know. I'm sure you're watching the show, Daryl. All you people watch my show.
Hey, Daryl.
Do the right thing. And Justin, you as well. You promised me, Mr. Trudeau, you promised me that you would respect individual sovereignty. Well, your legalization of cannabis has done no such thing. Please do that. You will be the greatest statesman that ever lived, although it might be way too late for you now. But, I told him that before he was Prime Minister, that if he would do what he said he was going to do in respecting individual sovereignty, that he would be the greatest statesman to ever live, because no other statesman has ever respected individual sovereignty the way that he deserved to have it respected. But, he went the same way as all the rest of them, because really they're all just paid puppets for the corporate financial elite that really run the show here and everywhere else.
Yeah,
that's what's going on.
Oh, wow.
Well, so there you go. Our updated situation in our quest for a community-based cannabis store with low barrier access is that we're going into our 13th week of waiting for the government to give us the exemption that we're seeking or the licenses that we're seeking. And until that time comes, we're going to continue to do what we're doing here with our fingers crossed, hoping we can get back into the store and do it properly and not have to fear government and be able to say some good things about government. That would be really nice, for sure. I think we can wrap it up for today. It's been another show.
Yeah.
Pot TV, I got to really thank them for allowing me to have this space to broadcast my message and my concerns over. I got to thank Neil, my producer. What a wonderful guy. He makes everything work so well. Probably one of the brightest guys on the planet. He deserves his own show one day, and I'm pretty sure he's going to have that. And he's also the producer of other Pot TV shows, and we have other Pot TV shows for you to watch in case you don't know, if you just stumbled upon us, that on Mondays at 4 o'clock, the 420 Lifestyle Show, Carly Marley, BC Bud Gal, so much fun, so much entertainment, so much education coming out of them every Monday at 4 p.m. Wednesdays at 4 p.m., it's Greg Williams, Marijuana Man, the longest running Pot TV show, well over 20 years. He's been producing Pot TV shows. He was the manager of Pot TV for a while, and very clever and insightful individual that has interesting takes on what's going on in our world. I highly recommend you check in what Greg Williams has to say on Wednesdays. That's on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Thursdays at 10 a.m. an earlier start for a Wake and Bake show, Morning Glory with BC Bud Gal. I don't know what she does on her show, but she probably wakes and bakes and gets everybody in the right mood for having a good day with cannabis. On Fridays, it's Johnny B with How's It Growing? Probably growing for the second time now. He's been doing his show for a while there. Johnny has great guests. Johnny's a wealth of information about all things to do with growing cannabis, and well worth tuning into. Sometimes on Saturday at noon, you'll find Boss Lissa doing High Noon. I think she's been on a bit of a hiatus for a while, but I'm sure she'll be back. Sundays, you get the day off to catch up with the shows you've missed, or do whatever else you want to do on a Sunday. And I'll be back on Tuesday with another episode of the THC show, where we try to find some hope and some ways to change those nasty truths that we're encountering in our quest for low barrier access to cannabis. And we're still living in very strange and dangerous times. We're still requiring people to stay safe.
And we're still bringing you a show.
And we're still bringing you a show.
Yes, and then Neil's bringing you a show.
And being safe is very important. It seems this pandemic is still raging around the world, even here. Although raging might be a bit of an overstatement. But it's a deadly.
I think the government's raging more than the virus is.
Yeah, but I guess we've learned through all of this that we need to be a little bit careful about our own personal space, that we shouldn't really be swap and spit with each other, in the way that we talk or interact.
Yeah, one person bought
it. Hasn't heard this yet. We're still here.
Yep, but you wouldn't want to jinx that. Touch wood. We try to social distance, as much as we can here. Most of the people that come to the RV are wearing masks.
Yes.
Maybe half of the people are wearing masks, something like that. We're sort of in a bubble here. There's a separation between where we are in here and they are out there. But the other side of it is really about staying sane.
Yeah.
And these are very, very tough times for people. There's a lot of people that are very scared, and a lot of people very vulnerable. There's a lot of people with compromised immune systems that have reason to be even more scared.
Yeah.
So it's really important to look after your mental health. It's really important to smoke some cannabis and think about some things and put things into perspective. I think we all need to be careful about what we do and be careful about what we let them tell us we should do. There's a lot of misinformation going on out there. There's a lot of hypocrisy going on. There's a lot of leaders that are deciding that this isn't serious enough that they have to stay home and not go on holidays, and things like that are going on. So there's something going on where many of the leaders don't seem to be taking it seriously, and why they wouldn't be, and what all that is about. I really don't know. I don't have any answers for anybody on any of that. That's why I don't give my opinion very often on it. I do think that mental health is a real serious issue that is of great concern. Suicides are up phenomenally amongst a number of different demographics because of COVID.
There's a local lady
so many people losing their businesses and not being able to go to work, and now going to spiral into poverty. Alcoholism is way up. Drinking is way up. Drug use is way up. Violence is probably way up as a result of all of this. We see a lot of people acting out around here. There's people yelling and more angry than they were a year ago for sure. So try to stay sane, stay safe, be kind to each other, be kind to yourself. Treasure life. Life is an amazing opportunity. We're not sure how we get here and how we get to have this short lifespan that we get. but it's an amazing opportunity to learn and love and to explore. And take all of that very seriously, but not too seriously, because life is too serious to take too seriously. Always, in my opinion, no matter what's going on, the most important thing is have as much fun as you can. Take that with you, and we'll see you next week.